Imagine that pivotal moment in history, the last time modern humans encountered their Neanderthal counterparts. What did they think of each other? Did they exchange ideas, tools, or even a shared sense of awe at their world? These encounters were not merely the meeting of two species, but the merging of destinies, leaving traces of Neanderthal DNA in many of us today. Neanderthal remains were first discovered in the early 19th century, but their significance went unrecognized until the 1856 discovery of a skeleton in Germany's Neander Valley. Initially, their unusual anatomy was thought to result from disease, and their status as ancient humans was only accepted when more similar skeletons were found, alongside tools and extinct animal bones. Current estimates suggest the divergence of the last common ancestor of humans and Neanderthals occurred around 500,000 to 700,000 years ago, primarily based on nuclear DNA analysis. Denisovans, another hominin from Asia, likely split from this lineage around 600,000 years ago, with the divergence likely occurring in Asia. Homo heidelbergensis is commonly regarded as the last common ancestor of Neanderthals, Denisovans, and modern humans. This species had a wide geographical distribution, ranging from Africa to Eurasia, during a time period spanning approximately 900,000 to 300,000 years ago. However, some researchers propose Homo antecessor, a species represented by approximately 800,000-year-old fossils from Grandolina in Spain, as an alternative last common ancestor. These debates reflect the complexities and ongoing discoveries in the study of human evolution. Modern humans lived in Africa, while Neanderthals settled in Eurasia. Modern humans likely moved into the Levant or West Asia much earlier than they spread across the rest of Eurasia, while Neanderthals stayed in Eurasia. The fossils dating between 200,000 and 100,000 years ago show clear Neanderthal features. By around 70,000 years ago, Neanderthals had fully developed their unique anatomy, referred to as classic Neanderthals. Neanderthals disappeared approximately between 30 and 40,000 years ago, shortly after modern humans arrived in Europe around 40,000 years ago. Neanderthals possessed a variety of unique anatomical features, including distinct cranial, dental, and postcranial characteristics. The Neanderthal face was marked by a heavy double-arched brow ridge, large rounded eye sockets, and a broad nasal opening. Their midface projected forward, and the cheekbones were angled and inflated. Internally, Neanderthals had large maxillary sinuses, and their frontal sinuses expanded to fill most of the brow ridge. Their lower jaw receded, and they lacked a protruding chin, with a noticeable gap between their lower wisdom teeth and the vertical branch of the jaw. Neanderthal back teeth were similar in size to modern humans, but their front teeth, especially the incisors, were larger. Their dental wear patterns were also distinctive, with the front teeth being more worn down than the back ones, possibly from using teeth as tools. Neanderthals' large nasal openings have been linked to cold climate adaptation. These features may have helped warm and humidify the air they breathed, or dissipate heat. Some interpretations suggest that their facial characteristics resulted from mechanical stress, such as using their teeth for activities beyond chewing. Alternatively, it's been proposed that their unique morphology was driven by genetic drift or chance-based evolutionary processes. The Neanderthal skull has several distinctive features. It is flat and elongated when viewed from the side and rounded when viewed from the back. The occipital region, back of the skull, projects backward, forming a structure known as the occipital bun. This trait, along with differences in the temporal bone and bony labyrinth of the inner ear, sets Neanderthals apart from modern humans. Their brain size averaged about 1,500 cubic centimeters, larger than that of modern humans, though their relative brain size was smaller due to their greater body mass. The Neanderthal skeleton is robust, with features such as curved femurs and radii, thick bones, and strong muscle and ligament markings. This muscular build suggests they were physically strong. They were shorter than early modern humans, with males averaging around 169 centimeters and females around 160 centimeters. Their body mass averaged 78 kilograms for males and 66 kilograms for females. Neanderthal rib cages were broad and deep at the bottom and narrow at the top, and their limbs were relatively short with large articular ends, which could be adaptations to cold climates. These body proportions may have helped them conserve heat. Although their body form suggests adaptations for cold environments, studies indicate that Neanderthals would not have been able to survive in high-latitude habitats without shelter and clothing. Neanderthal children grew faster than modern humans, and their populations exhibited a high mortality rate, especially among adolescents and prime-age adults. This could be linked to high levels of stress and trauma, often observed in Neanderthal skeletons, particularly in the head and neck. These injuries are thought to be a result of hunting large prey, and some may have been due to interpersonal aggression. Many of the injuries show signs of healing, suggesting Neanderthals exhibited compassion by caring for injured members, enabling their survival. Additionally, Neanderthal remains indicate elevated developmental stress, pointing to hardships faced during childhood and throughout life. Neanderthals primarily relied on meat, including animals like bison, wild cattle, reindeer, and horses, among others. Sites in the Mediterranean region show they also ate shellfish, birds, and marine mammals. Though plant remains are rarely found, this is likely due to poor preservation rather than their absence in the diet. Studies of Neanderthal bones reveal that they had a diet rich in herbivore meat, similar to top predators. Isotopic analysis suggests they hunted very large animals, like mammoths or rhinoceroses, more than previously thought. There is less evidence of marine food in their diets compared to modern humans of the Upper Paleolithic. The question of whether Neanderthals had symbolic thought and language is still debated. Unlike modern humans, Neanderthal sites show little evidence of symbolic objects like art or personal ornaments. This has led some to argue that Neanderthals lacked cognitive abilities and language. However, the archaeological record may not fully capture Neanderthal behavior. There is some evidence, such as the use of ochre and manganese crayons, and the burial of individuals, which suggests they may have had some form of symbolic thought. Yet, burial practices and grave goods are very rare in Neanderthal sites, making it difficult to draw firm conclusions about their symbolic capacities. Neanderthals were well suited to live in Western Eurasia, having been present in the region for at least 150,000 years, well before the onset of the last ice age. Geographically, they ranged across Europe, from Iberia to Russia, and from the Mediterranean to northern Europe. Southern European peninsulas likely served as refugees during glacial periods, helping them survive extreme climates when northern regions became uninhabitable. Neanderthals also lived beyond Europe, with evidence of their presence in the Near East, Western Asia, Uzbekistan, and even Siberia. The Teshik Tash cave in Uzbekistan is one of the most important sites for Neanderthal fossils in Central Asia. A Neanderthal child's partial skeleton was found in Teshik Tash cave, along with associated tools and animal remains. The site dates back approximately 50,000 years. Around 145,000 years ago, Neanderthals were mainly found in Western Europe, parts of Italy, and the Mediterranean. As the climate warmed around 130,000 years ago, their range expanded into northern and parts of Eastern Europe. The warm period of the Eemian, about 121,000 years ago, saw their range reach its largest size, peaking at 7.3 million square kilometers. However, when the climate cooled, their range shrank again, especially in northern regions. During the early and middle periods of the Weichselian Ice Age, around 115,000 to 30,000 years ago, Neanderthals were widely distributed across southern and western Europe, but more sporadically in Central Europe. The rugged Alps and Carpathians created natural barriers, making it difficult for Neanderthals to cross these regions. They likely ventured into Central Europe during warmer climatic phases, with the Odra Valley being a key route through the Sudetes and Carpathian Mountains. Neanderthal activity has been found in sites across Poland, Germany, and the Czech Republic, often in rock shelters, caves, and open-air locations. Notable sites like Zwolen, Königsaue, and Halera Avenue offer insights into Neanderthal life. Halera Avenue in Wrocław, Poland, reveals evidence of Neanderthal occupation during warmer periods. By studying animal remains from these sites, such as bison, horses, mammoths, and rhinoceroses, scientists can determine the temperature conditions during Neanderthal occupation. The Halera Avenue site shows evidence of Neanderthal habitation during two warm phases, around 115,000 to 74,000 years ago, and around 59,000 years ago. These periods, oxygen isotope stages 5 and 3, had average annual temperatures of 6 to 7 degrees, indicating a mild climate. From about 116,000 to 71,000 years ago, there were cycles of climate warming and cooling, which caused Neanderthals' range to expand and contract. Studies show that the most suitable environment for Neanderthals during the warmer Eemian period was in the Mediterranean, while areas like mountain ranges and plains were less suitable. However, after about 65,000 years ago, their range became more limited, mostly staying in Western Europe, the Iberian Peninsula, and parts of Italy. By around 44,000 to 40,000 years ago, Neanderthal populations had become isolated in smaller regions, resulting in a significant population decline. By around 30,000 to 42,000 years ago, near the time Neanderthals went extinct, their range had drastically reduced to just 2.7 million square kilometers. Genetic data confirms that Neanderthals had small populations, low genetic diversity, and high mortality rates. This made them vulnerable to inbreeding and reduced their overall fitness compared to humans, possibly by as much as 40%. Research on their mitochondrial DNA shows that late Neanderthal populations were spread across West Asia, Southern Europe, and Western Europe. Neanderthals in the Middle East and Southern Europe showed more genetic diversity, while those in Western Europe had less genetic variation, suggesting that Northern European populations went extinct before 48,000 years ago, and the region was later recolonized by Neanderthals from the Middle East. Although climate change likely played a role in their extinction, competition with modern humans may have also been a significant factor. Neanderthals and humans had similar environmental preferences, which suggests that competition for resources could have contributed to their decline. Some scientists even propose that modern humans might have directly displaced Neanderthals, although this idea is debated. Fossil evidence shows that Neanderthals lived in warmer environments, while humans lived in colder, Arctic regions, suggesting that direct competition between the two species over resources may have been limited. The mitochondrial DNA of late Neanderthals reveals new insights into their genetic diversity. 5 specimens were compared with earlier Neanderthals from different regions. The Les Côtes specimen in France showed genetic connections to Neanderthals from regions like Siberia's Denisova cave, suggesting a more interconnected gene pool rather than distinct Eastern and Western groups. Mesmaiskaya, too, from the Caucasus Mountains, also showed genetic links with other late Neanderthals, indicating genetic cohesion despite geographic spread. A genetic tree comparing older specimens, such as the Altai Neanderthal, about 120,000 years ago, and the Vindija Neanderthals, around 45,000 years ago, showed all Neanderthals forming a single group. Older specimens branched off first, while late Neanderthals grouped together. Neanderthals in regions like the Caucasus may have been replaced by populations from Western Europe during extreme climatic changes, leading to local extinctions and recolonization. Late Neanderthals separated from the Altai Neanderthal around 150,000 years ago, and from the Vindija Neanderthal around 70,000 years ago. Neanderthals and Denisovans diverged about 400,000 years ago, and their split from modern humans occurred approximately 530,000 years ago. This timeline clarifies Neanderthal evolutionary history. One of the major challenges in studying last Neanderthals is obtaining reliable dates for Neanderthal remains and associated artifacts. Early radiocarbon dating methods often underestimated the ages of samples, leading to inaccurate conclusions about when Neanderthals lived. Advanced techniques like accelerator mass spectrometry radiocarbon dating, combined with techniques like ultrafiltration, have corrected many earlier inaccuracies and provided a clearer picture. For example, at Mesmaiskaya cave in Russia, a Neanderthal infant was originally dated to about 29,000 years ago, suggesting late survival. However, newer dating of another Neanderthal from the same site revealed significantly older dates, as did the reanalysis of cut-marked animal bones from the same layers. Similarly, at Zafaraya cave in Spain, earlier dates placed Neanderthal remains between 33,400 and 28,900 years ago. Subsequent ultrafiltration of these samples showed they were beyond the limits of radiocarbon dating, indicating they were much older. The revised timelines for Mesmaiskaya and Zafaraya suggest that Neanderthals disappeared earlier than previously thought, with no evidence for late surviving populations in isolated refuges. Instead, their decline appears to have coincided with the spread of modern humans across Europe. The Neanderthal remains from Vindija, cave northern Croatia, have long been considered potentially among the latest surviving Neanderthals. Two key fossils from Vindija, a jawbone fragment and a piece of skull, were initially dated to about 29,000 years old. However, using advanced radiocarbon dating techniques, they reassessed the age of the Neanderthal remains from Vindija's cave. The research confirmed that the Neanderthal occupation of Vindija cave occurred earlier than previously thought, around 46,000 to 42,000 years ago, significantly predating earlier estimates of 29,000 to 28,000 and 33,000 to 32,000 years. These findings indicate that the site was not a last refuge for Neanderthals, but part of their earlier range. In essence, the Vindija site, once seen as exceptional evidence of Neanderthal survival and interaction with modern humans, now appears to reflect a more common issue in archaeology: contamination and mixing of materials from different periods. There is a need for caution when using radiocarbon dating to determine the age of very old human fossil remains. While radiocarbon dating is the most precise method available, its accuracy diminishes significantly for fossils dating back to 45,000 to 40,000 years ago. This period is critical as it marks the transition between Neanderthals and modern humans. Even a small amount of contamination by modern carbon can skew the results, making fossils appear much younger than they actually are. For example, just 1% modern contamination can cause an error of over 8,000 years for fossils around 42,500 years old. Gibraltar is a small British overseas territory located at the southern tip of the Iberian Peninsula on the southern coast of Spain. It is positioned at the entrance of the Mediterranean Sea, where it meets the Atlantic Ocean, known as the Strait of Gibraltar. It has a long history of connection with Neanderthals. The first discovery linking Neanderthals to the area was made in 1848 when a Neanderthal skull was found at Forbes's quarry. Later, in the 1920s, another skull, along with tools made by Neanderthals, was uncovered at a nearby site called Devil's Tower. These tools belong to the Mousterian technology. There are now 8 known sites on the Rock of Gibraltar, a 6-kilometer-long and 426-meter-high limestone ridge where Neanderthals lived. One key site is Gorham's Cave. Early excavations in the mid-20th century found evidence of Neanderthals through their tools. In 1995, researchers dated the last use of Neanderthal tools in the cave to about 32,000 years ago, where top layers linked to early modern humans contain tools that came from 2 distinct cultural periods, known as the Solutrean and Magdalenian, which followed the Neanderthals. The deepest layer revealed tools that were exclusively Mousterian, confirming Neanderthal activity. Gorham's Cave in Gibraltar provides valuable insights into the lives of Neanderthals and their eventual replacement by modern humans. Radiocarbon dates show that Neanderthals used the cave regularly for over 10,000 years, from around 33,000 to 23,000 years ago. However, the most reliable evidence suggests they occupied the site until approximately 28,000 years ago. The cave's unique structure made it a favorable shelter. Natural light reached deep inside, and the high ceiling allowed smoke to escape, making it a practical spot for repeated use. The evidence of hearths along with other remains shows that Neanderthals brought animals into the cave to butcher and cook, leaving marks on the bones. Neanderthals lived in an environment rich in plants and animals. The surrounding area included sandy plains, woodlands, wetlands, and coastal environments. This diversity likely helped Neanderthals survive longer in this region compared to other parts of Europe. While Neanderthals occupied Gorham's Cave, modern humans were slowly moving into nearby areas. Evidence from sites about 100 kilometers away shows modern human tools and settlements appearing around 32,000 years ago. However, the transition from Neanderthals to modern humans in southern Iberia was not sudden. It was a gradual process, with both groups living in the region at low population densities for thousands of years. Unlike other parts of Europe, there is little evidence of direct interaction or cultural exchange between Neanderthals and modern humans here. Neanderthals in southern Spain, particularly around areas like Gibraltar, may have survived longer than previously believed, living alongside modern humans in certain regions. In southern Iberia, southern Spain, and Portugal, Neanderthals continued to use their traditional tools and lifestyles even after the advanced tools of modern humans, such as the Aurignacian, spread across northern Europe. Evidence from several archaeological sites suggests that Neanderthals may have lived in southern Iberia until about 30,000 years ago, far later than their disappearance from northern parts of Europe. These Neanderthal populations appear to have developed independently in isolated regions, leading to a unique persistence of their culture and technology. The southern Iberian environment, with a mix of open, grassy landscapes in the north and more wooded areas in the south, likely played a role in this extended survival. The idea that Neanderthals in southern Iberia developed their own distinct cultural traits, separate from interactions with modern humans in the north, helps explain their long survival. Archaeological findings, such as Neanderthal, remains and tools in places like Gruta de Oliveira in Portugal, support the idea that their way of life persisted for thousands of years more than previously thought. During the period between 60,000 and 26,000 years ago, leading up to the last glacial maximum, the climate experienced rapid fluctuations and was harsher than it is today. As the last glacial maximum began, around 24,000 to 18,000 years ago, the environment became cooler, drier, and more stable. In the Mediterranean region, colder periods of the late Pleistocene saw annual rainfall reduced by about 400 millimeters, with winter temperatures about 6 to 13 degrees lower than today. However, during warmer phases, rainfall and temperatures were comparable to modern conditions. In southern Iberia, vegetation shifted between dry scrub species like Matinus and Ziziphus during colder times, and trees such as pines, oaks, and olive trees during milder phases. The animal remains found in Gorham's cave, including deer, wild goats, horses, and monk seals, show signs of being hunted and processed by humans. The absence of scavenger damage on the bones indicates the cave was a key human habitat. Evidence from pollen, animal studies, and plant remains suggests that the landscape around Gorham's cave was dominated by Mediterranean-like vegetation, featuring a mix of open woodlands and other habitats. Common plants included stone pine, olive trees, and shrubs typical of Mediterranean climates, indicating that extreme cooling episodes were not prolonged in the region. While the overall climate was relatively mild, some evidence points to colder winters and greater temperature fluctuations during the late Pleistocene. Limpet shells from the cave suggest sea surface temperatures were cooler, with more pronounced seasonal differences. Additionally, the presence of animals like shrews and newts usually found in northern climates supports the idea that Gibraltar acted as a refuge for species from colder regions. Despite these cold spells, Mediterranean plants and animals continued to dominate, suggesting that the region remained relatively warm and habitable. The average temperatures during this period were about 1.6 to 1.8 degrees cooler than today. Winters were significantly colder, by approximately 8 degrees, while summer conditions were similar to the present day. Annual rainfall was slightly lower, but there were fewer dry months compared to today, highlighting a semi-humid Mediterranean climate. The increased temperature differences between seasons suggest the area experienced more continental-like conditions during the late Pleistocene. There seems to be a contradiction in the story of Neanderthals in southern Iberia. How could warm-loving plants and animals persist in this region while climate change is believed to have caused the Neanderthals' extinction? One explanation is that southern Iberia maintained enough rainfall and moderate conditions to support Neanderthals for a longer period than other regions. Relatively good rainfall levels might have helped Neanderthals survive in places like Gorham's cave. However, even in this southern refuge, there were signs of harsher conditions. For example, rainfall levels decreased by about 78 millimeters during the period when Neanderthals lived in the area. Pollen records from marine sediments in the nearby Alboran Sea also show a significant decline in tree cover between 31,000 and 15,000 years ago, with the lowest levels occurring around 24,500 years ago. This corresponds to Heinrich Event 2, a particularly cold and dry period. Geochemical studies suggest that temperatures in southern Iberia were 4 to 6 degrees cooler than today around this time. Since Neanderthals are believed to have relied heavily on forests for food and shelter, the loss of large forest areas would have made survival difficult. Small pockets of forest, like those near Gibraltar, may have acted as refuges, but these may not have been large enough to sustain healthy Neanderthal populations for long. Similar patterns of extinction due to extreme dryness have been proposed for Neanderthals in other regions, like the Levant around 45,000 years ago. Ultimately, the coastal refuges of southern Iberia might not have been enough to protect Neanderthals from the increasingly harsh climate. Either these areas became too small to support viable populations, or the challenges posed by the climate were simply too great for them to adapt. The late surviving Neanderthal sites in Europe show their remains alongside tools from transitional industries that mix older Neanderthal traditions with newer techniques similar to those of modern humans. The technological industries used by the last Neanderthals during the Middle to Upper Paleolithic transition provide significant insights into their adaptation to changing environments and potential interactions with early modern humans. These industries reflect a combination of continuity from earlier traditions and innovation in response to new challenges and influences. During the Middle to Upper Paleolithic transition, Neanderthals displayed a combination of technological continuity and innovation, adapting to environmental changes and possibly engaging with early modern humans. Tool industries such as the Zelidian, Lincolnbian, Ranesian, Gersmanovician, Castelperonian, and Uluzian reflect both traditional Neanderthal craftsmanship and signs of technological advancements. The Zelidian industry, marked by foliate points, maintained continuity with earlier traditions, but also shows potential for adapting to new cultural influences. The Lincolnbian Ranesian Gersmanovician industry, with advanced blade technology, suggests that Neanderthals may have been influenced by early modern humans, possibly through interactions. The Castelperonian industry, associated with symbolic artifacts like pierced teeth and ivory, raises questions about whether Neanderthals adopted or independently developed Upper Paleolithic technologies. The Uluzian, linked to modern humans, further complicates the debate about Neanderthal capability and cultural exchange. The timing of Neanderthal extinction and modern human arrival varied by region, with Neanderthals in some places being replaced as early as 44,000 years ago, while in others, such as the Italy-France border, they persisted until around 41,000 years ago. This variation in timing suggests those Neanderthal behaviors and their responses to environmental changes and interactions with modern humans were not uniform, indicating a complex and regionally varied history during this transitional period. The appearance of the Aurignacian, linked to early modern humans in the south, is debated, with evidence suggesting it may have emerged around 43,000 to 45,000 years ago. Some sites, like Bajandio, raise the possibility of Neanderthal and modern human cohabitation, but this remains uncertain. Ongoing research at sites like Gorham's Cave and Picarero Cave is expected to provide clearer insights into the timeline of Neanderthal and modern human interactions, helping to resolve the complexities surrounding their coexistence in Iberia. The idea that modern humans wiped out Neanderthals is an oversimplified view, and it overlooks the complexity of their interactions. Several hypotheses suggest that competition played a role in the decline of Neanderthals. Modern humans may have had several advantages over Neanderthals, such as better clothing and shelter, improved hunting techniques, and more diverse subsistence strategies. Additionally, modern human social structures were likely more complex, with gender divisions of labor, larger group sizes, and intricate social networks. Demographic factors, such as higher birth rates and longer lifespans, may have also favored modern humans. Although archaeological evidence sometimes shows modern human remains above Neanderthal remains, it does not necessarily indicate that modern humans actively exterminated Neanderthals. It could simply mean that modern humans entered these areas after Neanderthals had already left. Ultimately, there is little direct evidence to suggest that modern humans deliberately wiped out Neanderthals. One significant factor that has been proposed for the extinction of Neanderthals is climate change. Neanderthals disappeared about 40,000 years ago, and by the time Homo sapiens arrived in Europe 45,000 years ago, there was only a short overlap. This raises the question of whether humans were solely responsible for their extinction, and it suggests that Neanderthals may have already been declining before modern humans arrived. Some researchers believe that the climatic instability during the last ice age may have played a major role in their extinction. The Pleistocene era was characterized by glacial advances and retreats that drastically altered the European environment, affecting the availability of resources for Neanderthals. Climate change could have caused demographic stress by reducing the carrying capacity of the ecosystem. During colder periods, like those that occurred in Western Europe 50,000 years ago, Neanderthal populations suffered a genetic bottleneck, leaving them with low genetic diversity. This is supported by studies of ancient DNA found in the Valdegoba cave in Spain, where the Neanderthals showed evidence of a dramatic population decline during cold phases. Further evidence of harsh climatic conditions is seen in paleoclimate records from Romania, showing cold and dry periods around 44,000 years ago, leading to year-round permafrost. While some dismiss the role of climate change due to Neanderthals' ability to survive past cold periods, others argue that the environment was not uniform across Europe, with some regions remaining milder. Finlayson presents an alternative view, suggesting that Neanderthals were never fully adapted to the cold. They lived in a variety of habitats, including woodlands and savannas, and were under constant stress, never fully recovering from previous environmental challenges. According to Finlayson, their eventual extinction was due to their overspecialization in hunting large mammals within a limited range of habitats, their low tolerance for environmental changes, and their fragmented populations. These factors led to low colonization success and high extinction rates, making them vulnerable to the environmental shifts of the late Pleistocene, which led to the loss of ecosystems that could support them. Another factor in the Neanderthal extinction theory is the Campanian ignimbrite eruption around 39,000 years ago, a volcanic eruption that might have had a severe impact on the environment. Evidence suggests that this event led to a reduction in plant pollens and possibly affected the animals that Neanderthals relied on for food. As we close our exploration of the last Neanderthals, we are reminded of their remarkable journey through time. These resilient humans thrived in challenging environments, showcasing advanced tools, art, and even symbolic thought, once believed to be uniquely modern traits. Yet, as climate shifts and interactions with our species reshaped their world, their legacy became part of ours. Today, traces of Neanderthal DNA live on in many of us, a silent testament to a shared history that connects us across millennia. Their story is not just about extinction, but adaptation, innovation, and survival against the odds. In remembering the Neanderthals, we gain deeper insights into what it means to be human, a reflection of resilience, creativity, and interconnectedness. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the past. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.